Good morning. If you could please take your seat, that would be great. Good morning. I'm Molly Brinkerhoff, today's worship associate. I'm glad we're all here, the people that are here in the sanctuary, and if you're at home, we're glad that you're watching us from home as well. I hear, oh, that's me. So speaking of that, I thought I had turned it off. Okay, why am I should be off. All right, that is weird. Okay, I'm gonna have to that's weird, that should have gone off. But I had it on so that for joys and concerns later, but. So anyway, on that note, turn off your phones. That is one of my announcements, but we know you come here for different reasons: to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truths, to question, to nurture your heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of your bigger questions. We welcome you. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our Unitarian Universalist Church in Idaho Falls, in our local community, and in our world community. So before we get started, I have a number of announcements. If you haven't already, for those people that are here in the sanctuary, please put your flowers in this vase. And at the end of the service, please come up and take a different flower home. We already talked about silencing your phones, and I'm usually the guilty one. If you're watching us virtually at home, if you're able, please sign into the chat box to the right of your screen. This will let us know who is joining us outside in the virtual world. We will be having joys, sorrows, and concerns today, and if you are here in the sanctuary, please fill out a piece of paper at the door, and Pam will bring them up to me in a few moments. And if you didn't email them to the worship team already, please put them in the chat box so a candle can be lit for you. And please indicate if it is a sorrow, concern, or a joy. While we no longer, or at the moment, are not having an offertory time during the service, it is still important nonetheless. So we would gratefully receive any donations to support us. Just go out to our website to click on the Give button, and we thank you for your support. Some other announcements, like I said, we have quite a few. Remember, we will be gathering after church today for a picnic, and even if you didn't bring any food, please stay and visit for a few moments. Let us reconnect. There will be no church services, this is for everyone, in July. If you desire to watch a service, go to our website and maybe go to our archives and check out a service you might not have seen before. A new thing we came up with is for those who are hearing impaired, Reverend Kevin is printing out the whole service, including his sermon, on these sheets of paper that are back there. And that way you can sit and listen and still hear, you could read and still understand what is going on. So if anybody's interested in that, they're available in the back. All right. Next week's worship service will be a streamed service of GA. We are still working on the logistics, and we will let you know how we're going to handle that in the update. And lastly, on our, I would like to thank Elizabeth and others for organizing and manning the Pride booth in Rexburg last weekend. It sounds like it was successful with all of our brochures being taken. Is that correct? So that's pretty exciting. So people are learning about us. That's the important thing. So we will now move into the, oh, Victoria, sorry. We have one more announcement.
Molly, I also said there was no women's group in July.
Oh, right. Okay, well, let's do Victoria. So there's no women's group in July.
So all these items I'm about to tell you have been approved by Bill Cohn, my immediate supervisor. So I They can't even hear you, so thank you so much. So I am determined not to let the big evergreens die. And in order to keep them alive, they need water. Water is life. So there are new hoses that means that so we can water by hand the Alberta spruce, because although we have sprinklers, they're only reaching the front of the bushes, and the bushes need water in the back. So I just come for about 45 minutes, a couple of times a week, sort of wander around and water, and it's kind of meditation time, and the plants respond positively. If anybody would like to help me, that would be much appreciated. There's more than just weeding. There's just watering and looking around. And I can give you a personal tour to show you what to do. And also, we have some bricks in the front that collapse that need to be removed. I'm not able to do that on my own because I'm sort of disabled for the time being until I get my knee fixed. So any help anybody would like to give, please see me and we can set up a time to do these. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay. So, with that, all the announcements done, we will now move into our sacred time of worship. So the flower breath. Today is our flower communion. Imagine that you're smelling one of these flowers. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, as though to move the flower softly in the wind. Think of your breath as I ring the peace bowl 3 times. Our church covenant was decided upon by a group of members from this congregation. Our covenant, along with our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles, is our guide to how our congregation will relate to each other and the world. As I read our church covenant for us all, please recite it with me. Love is the spirit of this community, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We will now be lighting our chalice. If you have a candle or a chalice available at home, please light yours with us. At the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil. Let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays, and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning is the poem White Flowers by Mary Oliver. Last night in the fields, I lay down in the darkness to think about death, but instead I fell asleep, as if in a vast and sloping room filled with those white flowers that open all summer, sticky and untidy in the warm fields. When I woke, and the morning light was just slipping in front of the stars, and I was covered with blossoms. I don't know how it happened. I don't know if my body went diving down under the sugary vines in some sleep-sharpened affinity with the green depths, or whether that green energy rose like a wave and curled over me, claiming me in its husky arms. I pushed them away, but I didn't rise. Never in my life had I felt so plush, or so slippery, or so resplendently empty. Never in my life had I felt myself so near, that porous line where my own body was done with, and the roots and the stems and the flowers began. I invite you now to enjoy our opening hymn, number 42, Morning So Fair to See.
Today's time for all ages is the flower ceremony, a plain and simple beauty. In the city of Prague, in the land of Czechoslovakia, in the year 1923, there was a church, but the building did not much look like a church. It had no bells, no spires, no stained glass windows. It had no organ to make beautiful music. It didn't even have a piano. It had no carvings of wood or statues of stone. It had no candles or chalices. It had no flowers. The church did have some things. It had 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor. It had a door and a few windows. It had some wooden chairs, but that was all, plain and simple. Except the church also had the people who came to it every Sunday. It had a minister, and his name was Norbert Chopek. He had been the minister at the plain and simple church for 2 years. Every Sunday, Minister Chopek went to church, and he spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quietly and still in those hard wooden chairs. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they went home. And that was all. No music, no candles, no food, not even coffee or donuts. Springtime came to the city of Prague, and Norbert Chopek went out for a stroll. The rains had come, the birds were singing, and flowers were blooming all over the land. The world was beautiful. Then an idea came to him, simple and clear, plain as day. The next Sunday, he asked all the people in the church to bring a flower or a budding branch or even a twig. Each person was to bring one. What kind, they asked. What color? What size? You choose, he said. Each of you choose what you like. And so, on the next Sunday, which was the first day of summer, the people came with flowers of all different colors and sizes and kinds. There were yellow daisies and red roses. There were white lilies and blue asters, dark-eyed pansies and light green leaves, pink and purple and orange and gold. There were all these colors and more. Flowers filled all the vases, and the church wasn't so plain and simple anymore. Minister Chopek spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quiet and still in those hard wooden chairs. These flowers are like ourselves, he said, different colors and different shapes and different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but each beautiful, each important, each in its own special way. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they each chose a different flower from the vases before they went home. And that was all. And it was beautiful, plain and simple as the day. The end.
We will now take a moment to reflect on our joys, sorrows, and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. I will now read the joys and concerns and sorrows we received, and Reverend Kevin will light a candle for each, and we have a number of them. First, we would want to light a candle for all the fathers of humans and animals. I personally have 2. I have a concern and a great joy. My concern is for all the businesses that depend on Yellowstone National Park for their survival. The animals will probably love the reprieve from all the tourists, but I hope the businesses and towns of Gardner and Cook City can survive. My great joy is that we welcomed Zoe Elizabeth Brinkerhoff into our lives. My oldest son, William, and his wife, Nicole, welcomed a beautiful bundle on Thursday. So we're very excited to have a grand. And now I have 2 sons that are dads, so that's kind of and this is a sorrow. I would like to light a candle of sorrow for Rhonda and Steve Wake. Rhonda lost her mom on May 31st, and we are so sorry to hear for their loss. Let's see. Got a couple more. Arthur had a great joy. He said the concert for Ukraine was a great success due to the gala dinner and the variety show by 10 local musical groups. The proceeds will go to 4 organizations, the UN High Commission for Refugees, Doctors Without Borders, Catholic Charities, and Helping Hands International. And we have one from Anita. She also has a great joy that she has welcomed her 3rd great-grandchild yesterday. Branson Lloyd McAdams was born yesterday after a difficult delivery. So I hope mom and baby are doing well. And I have 2 more. I will add to Arthur's joy that they raised $50,000 to help the Ukraine refugees, which is fabulous. And then Emma, a sorrow, her grandmother's funeral was on May 31st. And I'm not years ago, my gay friend Travis died from suicide. Joy, I'm 11 months sober. So we're glad to hear. So, and then we light one last candle. May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold, those joys, sorrows, concerns we hold in our hearts and just are not ready to share at this time.
Our reading this morning is from the book In the Beginning, Creativity by Gordon D. Kaufman. Humans did not bring the world into being, and it is not we who sustain it. We did not create the evolutionary process forever bringing into being new, unforeseeable forms of life. There is a powerful, awe-inspiring creativity manifest in our world, and indeed in ourselves, the new, the novel, the unforeseeable, the previously unheard of, break forth round about us and in our midst. The human life continues to be sustained from beyond itself. This serendipitous creativity provides grounds for our hopes for the future. Human life can go on, and we dare to hope will go on, and we are called to participate ever more fully and effectively in the creative transformation of our existence that will enable this to happen. Creativity is a mystery that we humans cannot understand and behind which we cannot go. Through our concepts of causation, we are able to understand various processes of transformation, of change in things that already exist. But mere change is not what we mean by the word creativity, for changes can be understood and often explained, and they do not involve the coming into being of something truly novel. The concept of creativity in no way explains how or why new realities have come into being. Rather, it simply gives a name to the profoundly mysterious fact that novel realities have come into existence in the course of time. As the ancient phrase creatio ex nihilo suggests, the coming into being of the truly new, the totally unexpected, the utterly inexplicable, is not something of which we humans are in a position to make sense.
Everybody's wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody's worrying about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. Think I'll just let the mystery be. Everybody's wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody's worrying about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. Think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say once you're gone forever, and some say you're gonna come back. Some say you rest in the arms of the Savior if in sinful ways you lack. Some say that they're coming back in a garden, bench of carrots and little sweet peas. Think I'll just let the mystery be. Everybody's wondering why and where they all came from. Everybody's worrying about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. Think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say they're going to a place called glory, and I ain't saying it ain't a fact. But I've heard that I'm on the road to purgatory, and I don't like the sound of that. Well, I believe in love, and I'll live my life accordingly. And I choose to let the mystery be. Everybody's wondering why and where they all came from. Everybody's worrying about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, and so it's all the same to me. Think I'll just let the mystery be. Think I'll just let the mystery be.
I have always been fascinated by maps of all kinds, even ordinary road maps and the topographical maps you see used for hiking and camping and canoeing. In fact, some of my fondest childhood memories are of navigating for my dad on one of our epic driving vacations in the 1970s, tracing our route on the free state road maps you used to get at gas stations. And as our family careened down the highway in our packed Plymouth Fury station wagon. Maps are important for showing us where we are and how to get to where we want to go. But what I really appreciate are maps that are also true works of art, like many of the maps from the early days of exploration in the 15th and 16th century. Seeing a corridor filled with such maps as large as tapestries was one of my favorite parts of touring the Vatican museums in Rome. On these beautiful old maps, I like to look for the little artistic nuggets that the early map makers often included in their work. Sometimes, for example, you see spouting whales or imaginative sea monsters or mermaids in the middle of the oceans. And near the border of these old maps, you will sometimes see the Latin words terra incognita, meaning unknown land, or the more colorful notation hic sunt dracones, which means here be dragons. The reason the map maker made such notations was to declare the limits of human, or at least white European, exploration and knowledge. It was a message to anyone reading the map that beyond this point was an unexplored and most likely dangerous place where no civilized foot had trod. The frontier the voyagers cautioned to cross only with extreme trepidation. Here was the boundary between the known and the mystery that lies beyond. Over the last few centuries, this boundary has been pushed farther than the old map makers could ever imagine. Our world and even the universe has grown less mysterious, less miraculous in many ways. We've explored and mapped most of our planet, and through science, we have probed the wonders of the universe, from the subatomic world to the most distant stars, realms that can only be seen in the mind's eye. We have discovered scientific explanations for most of the phenomena that our ancestors once attributed to the supernatural. Most of us, at least, no longer see the hand of God at work in inflicting sick as punishment for sin, or hurling lightning bolts to smite us, or deciding whether the rain falls on the unjust as well as the just to water our crops. We now have natural explanations, not only for the evolution of humankind, but even for the origins of the universe itself. The more we learn about the world, the less mystery remains, and the less we attribute to the divine. As one theologian quipped, God increasingly has an unemployment problem. On the map of human understanding, those metaphorical dragons keep getting pushed farther and farther to the edges of our cumulative knowledge as we chip away at the boundaries of the unknown. But despite all of this accumulated knowledge, we often have no more control over the phenomena that impact our lives than our ancient ancestors did. We may understand weather patterns and storm systems, but that only means we have more warning about the forces about to be unleashed upon us. There is some comfort in knowing, but there is little or nothing we can do to change the fate of which town will be hit by a tornado or inundated by a flood. The best we can hope for is to take shelter or get out of the way. And when we can't, we continue to mourn the loss of life and hold the victims in our hearts the way we always have. Any delusions of our mastery over nature can quickly be stripped away by her awesome and ruthless capacity to destroy what we have built and lay waste to our plans and dreams, leaving us anxious and terrified as our ancestors. Psychologists will tell you that humans relish any information that provides a sense of certainty and control in the face of chaos. People are naturally uncomfortable with ambiguity, and it simply drives some people crazy. In clinical terms, it is called ambiguity intolerance. And all of us exhibit it to a certain degree because it relates to our instincts for survival. It is healthy to be able to identify and categorize the known and unknown and recognize a potential threat. When we are torn between alternatives and remain confused, it can be detrimental to our existence. We have a physiological as well as a psychological response as our adrenal glands and systems respond to the confusing stimulus, and it may cause us to overreact, or respond inappropriately. Something I find very interesting is that research has shown that this type of ambiguity we encounter, that the type of ambiguity we encounter is not a significant factor. We seem hardwired to respond in a similar way, whether the source of our stress is one of the little ambiguities of daily living or the big cosmic questions about the meaning of life. Fear and the strong desire for closure, the need to find a quick, easy answer to the problem at hand, are typical responses. Some studies also show that ambiguity intolerance can produce very strong negative feelings toward any person or group identified with the source of the uncertainty. Some people may become more rigid and dogmatic, more prejudiced and closed-minded, and even more aggressive and punitive. Just think of how some people have reacted to terrorist attacks in recent years. The language has become threatening and very hateful, demonizing whole groups of people with a broad brush. The uncertainty of who is our enemy and who is not, and when or where the next attack may occur, is a tremendous source of anxiety for many people. And we need to acknowledge this. This doesn't mean we should condone or ignore bigotry and violence, of course, but we can't simply dismiss their feelings as being irrational. The world is an incredibly complicated and sometimes terrifying place. Our quest for knowledge has extended across every field, and our natural curiosity tempts us to keep probing the edges, always trying to learn more. We want answers to the big fundamental questions about existence, to know why there is something rather than nothing. And we want to understand the meaning of it all. But somehow, a definitive answer, an undeniable certainty, seems always to lie just beyond our reach. Just when we think we have it all figured out, along comes something like Darwin's theory of evolution, quantum mechanics, general relativity, or dark matter and energy, and we must reevaluate almost everything we thought we knew. Humanity experiences what Thomas Kuhn famously called a paradigm shift, though the phrase has become extremely overused in recent times. At times, our fundamental reality seems to be unraveling in beautifully strange and mysterious ways. And the more we learn, the weirder it gets. It seems like every article I read about the latest discovery about our universe is more bizarre than the last. It is no wonder that I tell people that my undergraduate degree in physics was a significant part of my spiritual journey that landed me in this pulpit. Like the ghostly particles at the heart of physical reality, these mysterious dragons just keep popping up, and we are forced to admit the limits of what is known or even knowable. When we consider this in light of our inherent intolerance for ambiguity, we can see why physicist Lawrence M. Krauss said that a universe without purpose or guidance may seem for some to make life itself meaningless. But for others, such a universe is invigorating. In other words, one person's dream is another person's nightmare. Science has been very good at unlocking the mysteries of the universe, but it is not the only way of knowing. As the late Reverend Forrest Church said, theology is poetry, not science. The metaphorical language of poetry can reveal profound truths that are often more directly relevant to the human condition than the findings of physics or astronomy. The experiences of life, love, suffering, happiness, grief, and so on, are awkward at best to speak about through the language of science, but they are the heart of poetry and especially religion. Spiritual and religious language gives us a means to express our feelings of awe and wonder, as well as our anxieties about life's purpose and what, if anything, awaits us after death. It is an ambiguous vocabulary, though, because it must be. We could debate the theological nuances forever without proving any point, because in the end, all theology is speculation, even if some people pretend it is otherwise. It is the search for truth and meaning we must embrace, even though there is little chance we will find any undeniable truth, even for our own satisfaction, much less one that satisfies everyone else. I believe the transcendentalists were right to emphasize the individual experience of the sacred, and such an experience is often ineffable when we try to share it with others. I freely admit that I use words like spirit, mystery, sacred, and even God with reckless abandon. Spiritual language has limits, and perhaps we can only describe the glimpses and hints we experience of the reality that lies beneath. It is one of the reasons I like Gordon D. Kaufman's idea of creativity itself as a useful way to speak about the great mystery, since though we can recognize the ongoing creative processes that permeate the cosmos, when we try to explain why this creativity is manifest in the first place, it is not something of which we humans are in a position to make sense. We must make peace with the limits of our understanding, at least for a time. The awareness of our own mortality certainly plays a fundamental role in religious thinking. Finding a way to cope with having to live, but knowing we must die. This can be seen as both a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing in that we can be motivated to make use of our limited time as best we can, to quench our thirst to understand the universe and our role in it, to find meaning in our lives. But we are also plagued by the anxiety of non-being, the fear of the unknown that awaits life's end. Humanity has produced many creative responses to this anxiety, from the dogmas of religion that claim to know all the answers, to accepting a kind of dreary existentialism of insignificance in a cold and indifferent universe, and everywhere in between. And if you're looking for easy answers to this dilemma this morning, I am afraid you have come to the wrong place. Our Unitarian Universalist faith does not provide any easy answers, but instead encourages us to wrestle with the alternatives and see what makes sense. It can be a difficult faith in this regard, but we aspire at least to create a supportive community as you struggle to find your way. We are all in the same boat. Not knowing the answers to life's questions may fill us with a mixture of fear and awe, but we are still drawn to the mystery like moths to a flame. One early 20th century theologian described this human experience of the sacred mystery with a wonderful Latin phrase, mysterium tremendum et fascinans, a mystery that is both terrifying and fascinating. It is an experience like standing at the rim of the Grand Canyon for the first time and staring into the immensity of the chasm. It is a little frightening, but hard to look away. The sacred is a mystery that we simply can't ignore, and yet, as I mentioned, one that words can never fully describe. The mystics from every religious tradition seem to agree, since the sacred is more often described in terms of what it is not than in terms that attempt to categorize or define it. If we are fortunate to have a mystical experience in our life, one of the essential characteristics is that it is a felt experience that is difficult or impossible to describe in words. The search for truth and meaning is still important, but we must accept that the truth and meaning we may find will likely be incomplete and perhaps even unsatisfying despite our best efforts. Most of the great spiritual traditions stress the ongoing nature of meditation and other spiritual practices as part of a lifetime journey rather than a spiritual quest to find the wisdom or answers you seek. This is the important role of perseverance, described by the author of the medieval spiritual book titled The Cloud of Unknowing, when he said to beat upon that thick cloud of unknowing with the dart of your loving desire, and do not cease, come what may. It is human nature to push the boundaries of understanding and wonder about the world before we were born and after we die, or how the universe began, or how it will end. As long as our species survive, I'm sure we will continue to chip away at the boundaries of the unknown through science and religion and any other way we can. But no matter how much we learn during our existence on this beautiful blue planet, I suggest there will always be mysteries that lie just beyond our reach. And I am thankful this is the case, otherwise life would be very dull indeed. We may find some of these mysteries to be invigorating or inspiring, but others may fill us with anxiety and leave us gaping into the deepest, darkest abyss. Perhaps the best we can hope for is to make peace with the mystery, to recognize it as such, and humbly accept that there are limits to our knowing. It is okay to acknowledge the dragons lurking on the margins. And when the sacred mystery reveals itself along our spiritual journey in startling and unsettling ways, rather than despair, perhaps we should boldly peer into the abyss and admire its mysterious beauty. Or even better, perhaps we should just metaphorically leap headlong into the abyss with an enthusiastic Geronimo and let the mystery wash over us in all of its magnificent splendor. Over the last decade of preaching, I have revisited this topic of confronting and making peace with the mysteries of life several times because I believe it is fundamental to what it means to be sentient, self-reflective human beings. Any of us who've gazed at the night sky in wonder or pondered the mysteries of existence lying awake in bed or have experienced the agony of grief are confronted with trying to make sense of a mysterious universe that presents more questions than answers. As far as we know, humans are the only creatures on this planet who are capable of the deep introspection needed to find meaning and purpose in life, and to truly appreciate the complexities and grandeurs of the universe and the intricate web of all existence. But there are limits to our knowledge. Life is a journey through much happiness and profound sorrow. And perhaps the best we can do is to hold fast to our faith, hope, and love along the way. There can be comfort in simply letting the mystery be. I invite you to enjoy our closing hymn, number 183, The Wind of Change Forever Blown.
Tomorrow
Our closing words are the poem Mysteries, Yes by Mary Oliver. Truly we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads.
We will now extinguish our chalice with the following words. Please join me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And remember to take a flower before you leave. And if you want to do it during the postlude, go for it.